Hey friends, Justin here. Most people know that it's super important to bring a first aid kit into the backcountry, but I'd bet that most of you are missing key items that are essential for keeping yourself and your group safe on your outdoor adventures. Today, I want to share with you my do-it-yourself first aid kit that I bring in order to deal with common injuries and issues while out on the trail, as well as be prepared for those more serious emergency situations. And it only weighs 180 grams, stored in this beautiful Dyneema stuff sack. And I also want to get out of the way right away that I was looking through the first aid kit and I forgot gloves. It's really important to have medical gloves with you if you are going to be working on someone, especially if there's blood involved. First items I want to talk about are drugs. So these are for those external issues that you might encounter. And as much as possible, I like to keep items in these Ziploc snack bags that I labeled with a label maker. So you can see here, this is the drug bag. And inside of here, we have a whole bunch of different items and we'll just run through them. I keep aqua tabs, so if my water filter breaks and I still have a way to treat water. And then ibuprofen. As much as possible, I try not to use this, especially when out on the trail. I don't like to mask any sort of pain or injuries that I have. When I will use it is if I'm trying to fall asleep and I have pain or something that's keeping me awake, as well as if myself or someone else needs to get off trail and they have pain that's preventing them from doing that. An example is I have given this to somebody who had really bad blisters and it was making it so it was very difficult to walk. Some ibuprofen took away that pain. I have a whole bunch of Benadryl here, another two-purpose item, so this can help you sleep if you are having trouble sleeping, as well as if someone has an allergic reaction, then you can give them some Benadryl, and that might either get rid of the allergic reaction or give them enough time to get them an EpiPen if they need that. We also have electrolytes here, and these are just in little capsules, and you can get a good dose of electrolytes pretty quickly. And this is important if it's really hot out, if someone's getting dehydrated, or if they have diarrhea, then you can give them some electrolytes and hopefully that'll help out. On the diarrhea front, again, we have Imodium. So there's actually only a couple in here because on my last trip, someone was having some issues and needed some Imodium, but super important. This is probably a lifesaver if you need it out on the trail. And then we have some ASA. So this is for heart attacks. If someone has a heart attack, then some baby aspirin will hopefully help out with that. I just keep a couple of them. And then caffeine pills as well. So you may not think that caffeine pills are a first aid kit item, but this is again in case you run into an emergency, you need to get off trail, or you're really tired, or even if you're driving and you need a little bit of a pick-me-up in order to get to where you're going, then caffeine pills can be super nice for that as well. Next up, we have fire, and these are items that you would not find in your typical first aid kit that you'd buy at REI or MEC. I definitely recommend making your own first aid kit because this one's gonna be a lot better than those pre-packaged ones. And I just have two things for fire. First up, I have fire starters. These are fire starters from Bigfoot Bushcraft, and these are better than any other fire starter that I've used. I've used a whole bunch, and these will light super quickly and effectively, which is essential with my fire starting system. So I have a Swiss Army Classic folding knife here. There's a few different things I like about this device. First up, it has a little knife, so I can scrape off wood if I want to make a fire. It has scissors, so if I am cutting bandages or Leukotape, then I can use these to cut things, which is way better than using the knife. It has tweezers, which I can use for taking out splinters or potentially ticks. And then something that I love that I just picked up was instead of having a toothpick in here, I have a ferro rod. So there's a company that makes these ferro rods, Tortoise Gear, and they're called the Firefly. And basically it's a ferro rod that slides right into the toothpick slot of the Swiss Army Classic. And this ferro rod combined with these fire starters are a super effective way to start fire in the backcountry. And I'll post a list of everything that I have in my first aid kit, as well as links as to where you can pick it up, including this really cool Dyneema stuff sack in the video description. The next little baggie we have is bandages. So this is in order to deal with any sort of scrapes and cuts and wounds. First up in here, we have some gauze. And then we have a whole bunch of bandages. So I like to just keep an assortment of bandages, as well as these little circular ones. So these are nice in case of blisters or really small cuts or punctures. Then we have steri strips in order to close up any sort of wounds that you might encounter. I'm gonna pull something up before we get into the rest of that, and that's a syringe. So a syringe is really important to have in order to irrigate any wounds that you have. So you pull water out of your clean water bottle, and then you can squirt that onto a wound, into a wound, and clear out any sort of dirt, dust, or foreign material that might be in there before you address the wound. And before you even start putting bandages on, after you clean it out, use a disinfectant wipe. It's super important to have that as well. I keep some Afterbite in there as well. Some people react really badly to certain types of bites, so this is a nice little addition, super lightweight, as everything in this kit is. And then we have a sterile pad as well that you can put onto wounds. And then we have a little baggie for a repair kit, and this is another thing that won't be in a standard first aid kit, but is super important to bring along with you. I have patches here that I can use to patch my sleeping pad or my quilt, and then a bunch of Dyneema patches as well. So these are good for my Dyneema tent that I have, but they'd also work on a whole bunch of other items, just really effective patching. I also have a little sewing kit from a hotel. So this has a needle in it that you can use to pop blisters. Just make sure to sanitize it first, as well as a whole bunch of thread in order to patch up any of my clothing or any of my gear if needed. We're getting into some of the bigger items, but some of the more important ones, I keep a little CPR mask in here. So this is a mask that has a valve on it, and it just goes over top of someone's face, and then that one-way valve prevents any sort of fluids from getting up into you. So if they throw up or something, then that's not going to be getting into your mouth. So really nice to have a CPR mask if you are going to be giving someone CPR. And then I keep a full roll of athletic tape as well. Some people might say that this is overkill, but I think it's essential if you want to be able to self-rescue. If you roll an ankle, for instance, then you can tape it up and still walk out off the trail. Another piece of tape that I have is Leuko tape. So this is a super effective tape for treating blisters. You just cut as much as you need, put it on the blister, and it's gonna be really effective at either preventing blisters where you are having a hot spot, or taping up over a blister or burst blister bubble. And Leuko tape will stay on for days after you put it on, which is different than duct tape or even the athletic tape here. If you do deal with blisters, then definitely get Leuko tape. A first aid kit is only a small part of all the gear that I bring on outdoor trips. Go check out a video I'll post right up there about my day hiking gear list, as well as another one I'll post up there about my comfort gear item list that I use for backpacking. Both of those items include a few more safety items that I bring on trips in order to be safe while out on the trail.